Assetto Corsa Competizione is the second release by Kunos Simulazioni, the Italian makers behind Assetto Corsa, one of the best driving simulators on the market at present, despite it being 7 years old this year in 2020. In that time, Assetto Corsa has received incredible amounts of indie mod support, which has literally produced thousands of mods available to users on the PC platform. There's apps, cars, tracks, HUDs, setups, and more. There's more additional content through this indie modification than there is available within the base game itself. But why is all that important? The reason it's important to know is because the Assetto Corsa Competizione comes with almost none of that. There's no mod tracks, there's only one DLC so far which supplies 4 tracks, and what that means is no blasting down the Kemmel Straight in Lewis Hamilton's 2019 Mercedes, no replicating hill climb records, or no racing Fiat Barca around Brands Hatch Indy. Why? Because ACC is focused on one thing and one thing only, the Blancpain GT3 series. The list of cars and tracks available here are only the ones that are actually available in the Blancpain GT3 series. So this comes complete with all the manufacturers and teams and the drivers that are available in the actual series, but no more than that. To be honest, initially I was put off by ACC because I really kind of figured out, why am I going to give up all of these tracks and cars and access to all this extra stuff that I have on Assetto Corsa when ahead of time I already know Assetto Corsa Competizione is going to just be limited to one specific area of motorsport. So that was how I initially felt about it, but that honestly was up until about 10 days ago when I kind of had an itch that I needed to scratch, and I didn't really particularly want to subscribe to that service where you have to buy more cars and tracks after you subscribe to the service, and the cars and tracks only remain to be yours if you remain subscribed to the same service. So not wanting to go that route, I decided that I would try and look for something else. Just in case you didn't notice, over here we're called Challenger Sim Racing and we're not called Champion Moneybag Sim Racing, so unfortunately we don't have the budget to subscribe to the aforementioned.
I don't even have a rig! I have a chair with a bungee cord!
So anyways, back to ACC. So I'm just going to come out and say it. This game is amazing. It's not perfect, but it is absolutely amazing. Where to start? You begin by choosing a name for your faceless driver, after which you're given the opportunity to customize said driver, choosing from preset helmets and racing suits, which you're able to colorize to fit whatever your desires are. There's also the option to create your own team with a limited number of preset design choices for your car, which you can also colorize, and you also have the option to pick a car number and sponsor for the rear wing and for the windscreen sun strip. The main interface gives you championship, career, special events, single player and multiplayer, along with the ability to check out driver stats, access save replays, gallery and game options. This interface is a massive upgrade on the original Assetto Corsa in that everything can be controlled from the wheel without ever having to touch your keyboard. But most importantly, the ability to remap everything to your heart's desire. It is important to note that this game is playable on controller and on keyboard on the PC. With all the hype surrounding the rating system in Assetto Corsa Competizione, especially the safety aspect, after hearing all the aficionados talking about not knowing what you're doing before you join multiplayer, I went straight into a practice session. I honestly don't remember if the game forces you to do that, but it was what I was going to do anyway. So, bottom line, you end up in the practice session. For me personally, I chose the Ferrari 488 GT3 because out of the lot of them, that's my personal favorite. I chose to race at Spa because weirdly enough that was the last thing I was doing in Assetto Corsa, except I was doing it with a Huracan for one of the special challenges. Now, granted that each car in Assetto Corsa Competizione has its own driving styles, pros, cons, quirks, it's immediately apparent from La Source all the way down to and through Eau Rouge that this sim is different. Not just because I was in a Ferrari, but because everything just felt more real. There feels like an instant weight to the vehicle. There's weight to the steering, which obviously you can adjust inside of the settings of force feedback, but the way that it feels just gives you the impression that you are actually connected to the road. And the way that the car responds seems to make sense, unlike where sometimes in other sims your input may not equate to what you see happen on the screen with your car. And I want to focus on that for just a second. With lots of racing games and simulators, I personally find that not only can the handling vary wildly between sim to sim, even using the same cars on the same circuit, but the other sims can somewhat feel disconnected from the track, almost like the cars are floating, which you either get to grips with or you continue to produce mediocre lap times and poor consistency. ACC doesn't give me that impression. The more I drove in ACC, the more I felt like I understood what was happening. Every input, every time I touched the pedal, whatever I was trying to do, even if it went wrong for me, I felt 99% of the time that I understood what it was that created that situation. And again, you don't always get that feeling in other simulators. In the practice sessions, you have an option to turn on a widget which allows you to display information to the driver relating to consistency, car control, track knowledge, and more. This is all part of the rating system. There are 3 stars available for every track that you do, which are obtainable by driving 4 consecutive clean laps, among other requirements. You can achieve a total of 99 stars in the track competence section, and this is required to participate in online races. You don't need 99 stars to go online, but to enter the competition server you will need to have completed all of the tracks at a maximum of 3 stars. So the more we start to dive into Assetto Corsa Competizione, the more we start to unveil and unlock. So with regards to the ratings, there are multiple levels of rating that you have to unlock, including your track competence, your consistency, car control, and pace. Some of these things being locked behind other sections of the game, such as the special events, are required to unlock the pace section, which then begins to measure that. But as you begin to progress through the game, you can achieve and build on all of these levels. The main focus for everybody is usually the safety rating, which is required on different servers to be able to access them, and if your safety rating is too low, you wouldn't be able to join in on such races. You can build all of these ratings fighting with both the AI and with other real life players online, so you pretty much build your rating no matter what aspect of the game you're dealing with. Moving on from practice, the single player specific modes include some of the usual suspects such as Hot Lap, Quick Race, Race Weekend, with additional modes for Hot Stint, not available in Assetto Corsa, and Endurance Racing, among others, each with a multitude of options allowing for you to customize your experience to your heart's content. Outside of the standard single player mode exist both career and championship modes, which are also single player versus the AI. I have scratched the surface in career mode, which sees a special intro by Marco Bertolotti, the 2017 Blancpain GT champion, welcoming you into a series of tests with Lamborghini at Monza. Completion of these tests result in a ranking which helps to assess the level on which you will begin your career. I got silver, so A, screw all you goldies, and B, I'm not sure if this actually affects the car and team selection. I wasn't able to choose Ferrari for my career, so I guess it does affect it. Championship mode, I have not even touched this yet. So that just leaves us with multiplayer, which once you actually manage to meet the required ratings, for example with safety level or your track competence level, you're able to join different servers that are currently available. I tend to go for ones with the lowest ping. Depending on the server, you'll be able to participate in practice modes, qualifying, and then eventually the race, and it basically loops back again and just continues on the same circuit doing the exact same thing again. So this can vary, some only have qualifying and a race, some only just have the race, but this changes from server to server. The online multiplayer experience in Assetto Corsa Competizione is actually quite brilliant. The fact that they have these ratings involved, and the fact that you can, for example, damage your safety rating by ramming another contestant off the circuit actually tends to make people try to calm down. So unlike, for example, F1 2019, where it's absolute mayhem and whatever happens happens, in Assetto Corsa Competizione it would appear that people are trying to take their time just a little bit more to preserve that rating, which is incredibly important to most of the drivers on here. One thing that's definitely unfortunate with the safety rating system is that regardless of who created the contact between two cars, both drivers are penalized for that. So in instances where somebody may hit you from behind, or somebody may hit you from, well, any direction, it doesn't actually matter. The point is both of you end up getting a safety rating penalty, which is one aspect of this that I'm really not that much of a fan of. Having said that, it really does give you the incentive as a driver to try and keep your nose clean and stay away from any drama. Despite this feature, I would still stand by the fact that Assetto Corsa Competizione has actually helped to make me a better sim racing driver. It does help you to learn to keep your nose clean. It does help you to learn to figure out, I'm not going to go near to that guy because it looks like he's crazy, and I'm going to wait for him to take himself out and then I'll take his position. It teaches you how to be patient and encourages strategic overtakes and well thought out maneuvers. So even though I don't actually technically agree with the penalty system, I can admit that I do see benefit from it. Overall, what do I think of Assetto Corsa Competizione? I am definitely very happy with my purchase. I've thoroughly been enjoying this for the past 10 days that I've owned it in every possible way. I've explored the single player, I've explored the multiplayer, and it continues to give me a consistent experience over and over again. The graphics are much nicer than the original Assetto Corsa without the additional mods to make it look more beautiful. This game looks the part straight out the box, and not only that, but with the addition of the extra features that are included, the specifics that help you with the interface, how you interact with the simulator is much better than it was before. In terms of driving feel, this is probably the closest simulator that I have that makes me feel as though I am in a real car. I don't necessarily get that exact feeling from the other sims that are out there, so hence this period of time where I'm enjoying this more. With regards to limitations, we mentioned the penalty system earlier, which I'm not too fond of, but aside from that, the other things are Kunos don't really appear to be game guys as such. These guys are more to do with software, so the fact that they even produce what's known as games for us is pretty cool. But I guess that also explains some of the things where they're not as good as making a game experience as certain other publishers, producers, game creators, whatever you want to call them. But what you get in terms of a driving experience through this is absolutely phenomenal, and I would recommend it to anybody that's a fan of driving, period.